This is everything I read and watched in the month of October. I read 9 books, I watched 4 movies, and I watched some TV as well. October is the best month. It starts with my birthday, it ends with Halloween. Happy Halloween. Let's chat about every book that I read. Starting with You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. This book was phenomenal. I gave it 4.5 stars. Honestly, it's a really great example of the horror genre because the horror genre lets us feel our feelings and our rage and our grief through horror, through gore, through fear, through all of that. And this is like just a great example of why we all need horror and why the genre is so important to people. The second book I read was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. It's a really fun, quick, spooky read. I think it's like 100 some pages, and I had a really good time. I really like Delilah S. Dawson's writing because it really pulls you in immediately, and it's also really easy to read. I think she does a really good job of immersing you in the story and really moving it along as well. It's about a girl who goes to the farmer's market and meets a woman and becomes obsessed with her and ignores pretty much every red flag there is. And so I think it's really funny and relatable in that way. But then the horror aspects of it are extremely well done. It's really spooky. The end is really exciting and not something I saw coming, so I really, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. I gave it 4 stars. Another book I read this month was I Love You Don't Die by Jade Song. I got approved for this arc on NetGalley, and I was so excited to be able to read it because I loved her first book, Chlorine. This book is truly phenomenal. I can't wait to acquire a copy in March when it comes out. The way that Jade Song writes is so deep and feeling, more so than any other author could even grasp, I think. I have really never encountered anyone who feels that deeply and then is able to express it through their writing. This book is about a woman named Vicky who lives in New York City above a funeral parlor and works for a bespoke urn company founded by a celebrity. She's also obsessed with death. This story is basically about her navigating her friendships, her romantic relationships, and her relationship with herself. And I think it's just one of the most lovely stories I've ever read. I love the way that she writes relationships, and she puts platonic friendship as equal to romantic relationships, which I think is a really important and radical thing to do. Society has told us that we need to prioritize romantic love over everything else, and I think that that's really harmful and creates a lot of unrealistic expectations for people in their relationships. And Jade Song really understands how important it is to prioritize friendship and platonic relationships. This book has a truly devastating and wild ending, which is to be expected after reading Chlorine, but I was so thrilled with it. The ending was so satisfying. And I think if you need a good book to cry to, this is definitely for you. This is one of the best books I have ever read, if I'm being truly honest. So I gave it 5 stars, obviously. That would be crazy if I said all that and then it was like 4 stars. I listened to the audiobook of A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranak, and I did not like it. I gave it 2.5 stars. It took me nearly the entire month to read it. I started it in September and finished it in October. It was so boring. The characters had 0 depth. Truly nothing happened. I think it was a great vehicle to do a retelling of a fairy tale that we all really like, and I think it appeals to people like me who love Swan Lake, who used to do ballet, and then it's just such a letdown. The only thing that is good about it is the vibes. That's it. The setting is fine. In my opinion, it's way easier to write a world without magic. And so when you write the plot to be recovering magic back into the world, that's a cop-out because you didn't want to write the magic system. And so I really dislike reading anything like that. I don't ever like a fantasy world where they have to get the magic back and that is the only plot. So that might be what made me hate this a lot. I think the main character was so unbearable because she was so boring, and Every decision that she made was really obnoxious. This character is unlikable in a way that she's written poorly. Like, you weren't meant to be human. All of those characters are completely unlikable, and yet I cared about every single one of them. A Treachery of Swans is so bland. None of the characters had anything going on in their heads. They had no feelings that I believed. I think that, unfortunately, the sapphic relationship in it, I was really excited about it, and then it felt really forced. Like, the other thing that this author does really poorly, in my opinion, is telling and not showing. I'm not stupid, and I don't need an author to explain to me what someone is feeling and what's happening when they can just show it through someone's actions, which they did, and then they told me what happened, and that really made me mad. I don't like when an author doesn't trust me to be able to read their book and their characters. 2.5 is so generous. And I'll stop there. I also read Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and this was my first Ali Hazelwood and my first contemporary romance that I've ever read, so I was pleasantly surprised by it. I think as far as supernatural contemporary romance goes, it was good. Sometimes it was a little cringy, but overall I wasn't overly cringed out by it, so I could keep reading. And her writing is really fun. It's really easy. I was able to read this book in 2 days, even though it's 400 pages. So I gotta give it props there. I think the characters were really fun. I really like Lo. He's a really good MMC. I just didn't really care for Misery as much as other people like her. I think she's fun, she's quippy, she's snarky. She's, she's a speaker mind type of woman, and that's about it. It was super straight. It was super hetero. I don't mind that, but someone else might. So I wouldn't recommend it to my fellow queer people if you really hate when it's so straight. Like, I really don't mind a straight spicy scene, honestly. Like, I have a good time. It's not for everyone though, so be aware of that. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was fun. And I will read Mate, but I have read some passages through other people that look crazy, so I don't think I'll like it as much. Another book that I read was Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. This was the final book from him that I hadn't yet read because I love all 3 of his novels so much. He is my favorite horror author. I think everyone should read everything he writes. He's an auto-buy author for me. So this was the last thing I hadn't read, and I had a really fun time. It's a really good short story. I think it would do really well adapted into a horror anthology film. It definitely feels like one of the stories in like Body Bags or Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt. And I think if there was a modern day anthology like that, this would be a great addition to it. The main character's internal monologue really cracked me up. It was really funny and really mean to him because it's his grandma talking to him. And I really liked the villain as well. He's really scary. The gore was really well done. Very, very scary. And I do think it could have been longer. I think it could have been a full novel. I totally get why he didn't want to do that, but I think the material was there for it. It just confirmed that I love Nat Cassidy so much. And I gave it 4 stars. I read A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I did purchase it because my library book of it was due and I needed to finish it, so I went ahead and purchased it because I loved it so much. S.T. Gibson's writing style is so unique, and it's also very readable while being really descriptive, really emotional. The dialogue is really good. I wrote down so many quotes from this because I really loved it. This is the story of Constanta, Dracula's first bride, and it's her letters written to him, which is a format of book that I really like. It draws you in as the reader because the pronouns that are used are second persons, so Constanta is saying I and you is Dracula, but it does draw you in as the reader because you think me, she's writing this letter to me. I loved the relationships in this because I think it is the most accurate portrayal of vampires in that they are going to be queer, they are going to be non-monogamous, they are going to forget about most of the things that happen in their lives because they live for eternity. I really loved how she wrote the eras by not telling us what year it was, but just giving us hints as to what time period they might be in. Like if there was electricity, if there were cars. She mentioned something about the Industrial Revolution, stuff like that. So I really liked that, where it was like, let me put you in this time and place, but you don't need to know all that much because the vampires don't either. I gave this 4.5 stars. I thought it was so well done. This is definitely up there for me in vampire books. Another audiobook that I read this month was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, and I do not recommend this book. The story and the outcome could have been done in half the amount of pages, so I just think that it was way too long for what we were given. I also despised how every woman was treated in this for no reason. This book takes place in 2 different timelines, 1961 and 1975. It takes place at a summer camp, and in 1961, this rich family's first kid goes missing, and then in 1975, their second kid goes missing. And that's a really intriguing synopsis, but what really happens is not that exciting or fun or even mysterious. The timeline needed to be less confusing. There needed to be way fewer points of view and way fewer characters in general. Like the hopping around to different years and then a different character in that year. Like it would go from one character in 1961 to another character in 1975, and then you wouldn't hear from that first character again until halfway through the book. So it was just really poorly done in my opinion, and there are way better mysteries out there. I did give it 3 stars because I don't think the writing was bad. I just think it needed to be edited down so much. But it was better than other bad books that I've read. So 3 stars. The last book I read was The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. It says it's 144 on the tracking apps, but that's because there's a short story in the back that's separate. The story, The River Has Roots itself, is only 100 pages. And this copy of this book is beautiful. I also have heard that the audiobook is really good because there's a lot of musical elements to this. So I think the best way probably to experience this book is an immersive read, and I definitely will do that when it's time for a reread for me. This is a story about 2 sisters and their relationship. This is a fantasy novel that's set in a human world and a fairy world called Arcadia, and just the relationships between the 2 sisters and their lovers and their families. It's a really, really beautiful book. The acknowledgments are a must read. I was sobbing at the end of it. This is definitely one of my new favorite books, alongside This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is her other book that she co-authored with Max Gladstone. She's an auto-buy author now for me, absolutely. Now I want to talk about all the movies that I watched. I only watched 4 movies in the month of October, and that's really, really low for me. I am usually at least 8. I try to watch at least 2 movies a week, so this 4 count is really bad for me, honestly. I am a movie watcher and enjoyer. I don't really know a lot about film history. I pretty much only know about actors and directors, so just know that when I talk about movies on here. The first movie I watched was Crimson Peak by Guillermo del Toro. It's from 2015. I was getting ready for horror movie trivia, and I was like, I haven't seen this one, so I need to. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I had a good time. I think it's like really atmospheric. It's really beautiful. It's really well done. It just kind of was lacking a little bit to me. I don't love everything Guillermo del Toro does, but I will watch everything he does. Another movie I watched was Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 by Tobe Hooper. This movie is always 5 stars for me. I rewatched it at the beginning of the month for my birthday. It was playing in the theaters, so I went with my friends who had never seen it before, and it was such a fun time. I think the first time you watch it, it's very stressful, it's quite scary, and then the more times you watch it, you're like, is this actually a comedy? It is just creating a stressful atmosphere that makes you think everything is scarier than it is. And I think it's so genius. Tobe Hooper is one of my favorite directors. I love Poltergeist as well, even though I know that Steven Spielberg's fingers were like really in that pie. So it's not only a Tobe Hooper movie. Every time I watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I just forget how much screaming there is and then how much just yelling someone's name the movie is. But I think it's really funny. And I think it's visually amazing, really good at stressing you out. Even if you've seen it before, I think it's stressful, it's scary. It's a really good movie, and it's always 5 stars for me. I also recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I think it's a hilarious sequel because it's like, what if the first one was actually a slapstick comedy? And I think it's really well done because to me, horror is funny. I think horror and comedy, there's a fine line between those two things. So I think that Tobe Hooper really understands that, and I love his movies. I actually watched another Guillermo del Toro movie this month, and it was Frankenstein 2025. I was so excited to be able to see this early. Another theater in Minneapolis called the Main Cinema does a Cine Latino film festival in October, and they did an early screening of Frankenstein. My favorite parts of the book by Mary Shelley are the father-son relationship between Frankenstein and the creature, and also just the fact that Frankenstein is a teenager, and that is why he's making these like ego-centered decisions. I also love the monologues in the book. I think they're some of the most well-done monologues of all time. My thoughts about the adaptation from book to movie are that it's not a good adaptation, but it is the best one we have ever gotten and likely ever will get. I think don't watch it expecting a perfect adaptation. It is definitely Guillermo del Toro doing what he wants with the source material, as he always does. My main gripe with this movie is that Oscar Isaac should not have been Frankenstein. He just shouldn't have been Frankenstein. He's old. He's hot. He's old. Mary Shelley wrote a teenager that created this man, this creature, and his son, and that aspect of the book really got lost. However, the relationship between Frankenstein and the creature is phenomenal. I do think the father-son dynamic was there. Maybe not in the perfect way or like in the way that I would have hoped, but I do think it really was there. The best part of the movie to me was Jacob Elordi and then Mia Goth after that. My favorite thing is when a hot guy who is only getting hot guy roles gets to be a little freak. That's my favorite. I always wait until a really hot guy like Jacob Elordi, like Austin Butler, I wait till they get a little freak role and then I make my decision on them because they're getting cast in these roles because of their looks and that they're capable of acting. So when they get to be a character that is not about how they look, I get really excited because it's just like their time to shine. And I really think give this man an Oscar. We'll see what else comes out this year, but give him an Oscar. Please nominate him. He deserves it. I really do think that Guillermo del Toro stayed true to the monologuing aspect of it, which I think is intrinsic to the book, in that we get to see what these characters are thinking and feeling through their monologues. So I really love that he kept that part, even though he changed a lot of the themes. And I've seen a lot of reviews of people loving it, people hating it. Every other adaptation of Frankenstein is bad. It's bad. Like, it's not the creature. And so as someone who loves the creature, I think that Jacob Elordi is the best one we'll ever get. Truly. The design of the creature is also amazing. I give it 4.5 stars because I really loved it. And, you know, I think that you can hate on it if you want, but it is the best one we're gonna get. It's Halloween, so I watched a vampire movie called The Hunger. It's from 1983. It's starring David Bowie and Susan Sarandon, and it's super sexy. It's another hot guy in special effects makeup. Like, David Bowie is in old makeup for most of the movie, which was confusing and weird, but I liked it. And I love Susan Sarandon, so I had a good time. It's a 2.5 star because it's a bad movie, but I had a good time. I would recommend it. Some TV shows that I watched, I have been watching Dancing with the Stars. I've been watching Great British Bake Off. I've been watching Abbott Elementary. And I've been rewatching Angel because every year I do a Buffy the Vampire Slayer rewatch, and I realize that my partner has never seen Angel. So we are starting with Angel, and then we're watching the Buffy episodes that correspond when they overlap. So we're getting a little bit of Buffy in there, but Angel's fun. It's not very good. It's definitely the lower budget of the shows, but it's fun to watch them side by side. And Angel is such a better character in the show than he is on Buffy, so I love it. I think it's fun. We're still watching it. It'll be a while. That is everything that I read and watched in the month of October. If you want to watch my 25 books for 25 years that I did at the beginning of the month, go do that. And I'm also on TikTok. I post a lot on there, somewhat on Instagram, but I'm trying to be more active on here as well. So subscribe if you would like.